Hi, my name is Kyle Vanderstip with Nims & Associates, and I'm going to be talking with you today about customizing Acumatica. On our agenda, we're first going to talk about the three base elements of the framework that makes up Acumatica ERP. And then afterward, we're going to talk about how we can extend the functionality of the base elements. And then lastly, I'm going to go with you through a demo customization of adding a user-defined field to an existing Acumatica page. We'll begin with a page in Acumatica. This is the user interface that you see that is highlighted in the red rectangle. It contains the form controls, it contains buttons, it contains grids, it contains all the things that you'll interact with when you're using the software. It is really just a shell, however, and the page itself does not contain any logic or validation built into it. Next, we have a data access class. A data access class is a mapping device that creates a link between a relational database table, such as the Microsoft SQL Server table, and an object that can be manipulated by the Acumatica software. This removes the need to write lots of queries to perform selection and modification of the data. The data access class itself also contains almost no logic behind it, and it only has this mapping functionality. Actions can be fired off in the program, and the data access class will perform a save or a read or an update automatically. Lastly, we have the business logic controller, otherwise known as a graph. And the graph is what ties all of the elements we've already talked about together. So a graph uses the data access class to select data from a database table and pushes it up into the user interface. It modifies data in its cache, and all of the if X then Y sort of business logic that happens with the data occurs in the graph. So now that I've told you about the three main elements that drive the Acumatica ERP, the next thing I'm going to talk about is how can we customize those elements to extend the functionality of Acumatica ERP. So what we use to extend the functionality are something called extensions. Extensions are applied to either a data access class or a graph. Pages actually get extended in a different way, but they operate very similarly. So what you have is you have the base data access class or the base graph, and then you have an extension that sits on top of the base element. When you're working in the software, these two operate as a single unit. So when you query the base DAC, the extension comes along with it. And lastly, since you are not making any modifications to the base element, you can actually peel off the extension with no changes to the base software remaining. So the number one thing, you can make some very strange customizations, and you can really tinker with it, and you can just peel all of your customizations off, and you won't have broken your instance of the base software. So extensions and other customization elements exist in a customization project. And you can find a customization project in System, Customization, Customization Project. And you can see here in this table, this is the list of all the active customization projects on the Acumatica instance. And customization projects are published and unpublished to essentially apply and remove their functionality. Inside of a customization project, these are the elements that we were just talking about. Screens are modifications to pages. Data access modifications live. Code is where the graph or business logic extensions live. And then finally, the customization project can apply database modifications to your database through the publishing and unpublishing of the customization project. All right, next I'm going to take you through all the elements we've already talked about, and we're going to do a real live customization. All right, so I fired up my Acumatica instance here, and I'm going to log in. Okay, so I've opened my Acumatica instance here, and we're going to go to System, Customization, Customization Projects. And I'm going to create a new customization project called Demo. I'm going to open up the customization project window. And the first thing I'm going to modify is my data access class. So here, I'm going to say add new record. And then this is the point where I need to choose an existing data access class. So I'm actually going to say, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a custom field to the stock item screen that's going to be a checkbox that says contains catnip. Now this is actually a real customization that I had to do for a client one time. So don't laugh too hard. But if we go to inventory item, and here we go, IN inventory item. And we are going to save, and I'm going to say add field. And I'm going to create a new field. And the field name is going to be called contains catnip. The display name is what appears in the user interface. The storage type is going to be a database table column. And the data type is going to be a Boolean because it's just going to be a checkbox. Now, conveniently, when you use the data access section of a customization project and you create a new field, Acumatica actually not only modifies the data access class, but also goes back into the database and creates the correct column in the table for it to write and read to. So I need to actually go out and make this column. So I'm going to hit publish. And now Acumatica is creating a code file that extends the data access class and creates that column in the database table. So you can see it's working away. And now I'm going to go to the screens menu. And I'm going to say add screen, customize existing screen. And we are going to be using the stock item screen under distribution, inventory, work area, manage, stock items. Just make sure that everything's published. Looks like the compilation is finished. So now what we are going to do is, so you can see this tree here. This tree has all the elements that exist on the page. So if you actually open up, if you hit the preview button, then you go here. This form is this part of the page here. And then below the form, you have a set of tabs. And you can see that this grouping of tabs is, general settings matches with general settings, sub items, with something further down the line, price, cost info, et cetera, et cetera. I think we should probably put this checkbox just under general settings. We need to go here, and you can see that Acumatica has certain controls that let you organize the controls on the page. So these column controls essentially hold these controls here and here in a set of columns. So you can see two column controls. There's two columns on the screen. So we're actually going to go out and we're going to make a third column out here. So we're going to go to general settings and we're going to say add controls. And I'm going to say column. We can modify this column by saying group caption. And I'm going to say catnip. Let's save that. And that starts a new group of controls. And now we're going to say add data fields. And we're going to say custom, because it's going to pull up the custom field that we added over here in the data access page. We will say select, and then we will say create controls, and then we're going to insert the control at the place I have selected here at the tree. So we'll hit save, and then now we can actually go back and preview changes. See how it looks. Actually, if we widen the screen a bit, you can see that the third column appears. We can check and see that, hey, this item contains catnip. Okay, looks good. Let's close the preview window and let's publish the current project again. Now Acumatica is making the changes that I just made and publishing the page that appears when you open it on the website. So it says here, website updated, which means we can close this window. We can now go to distribution, inventory, stock items, and you can see our custom field right here. So if we open up an item here, and we hit contains catnip, we can save it, and we can then go to the next record, and we can go back, and we can see that our record's saved. And that is our demo customization of how something simple like a user-defined field can be added to a page in Acumatica. We didn't show a graph extension simply because within the scope of this video, it would be a little bit too dense, but I mean, you could just as easily add logic to when that field is enabled. You could add logic to maybe a window pops up when you select that field. Anything that you can imagine is certainly possible. If you found this snapshot video useful, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel or join us at LinkedIn under NIMS & Associates. If you have ideas for future snapshots or want more information about Acumatica, feel free to contact us at erp@nimsassociates.com or at 877-454-3200, extension 6346.